As today's special bonus episode of Playing Above the Line is being recorded and released in real time, the world is facing some unprecedented challenges as it relates to the spread of COVID-19, which is also known as coronavirus. Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome back to another COVID-19 edition of Playing Above the Line. This is Alan. I'm your co-host, and again with me today is Dennis Sherrin. Dennis, thanks for showing back up again.
Yeah. I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to talk about the stimulus package that was recently passed for individuals around the country and families. And don't remember the exact act because there's so many of those acts, and there's this giant line of words in my head. But anyway, so Alan, I'm going to toss the question to you. Tell us a little bit about the primary stimulus package. It's for families. That's a tax credit, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the thing that's been getting all the press is the rebates that are coming, right? So it's and really what it is technically it's a advance of a 2020 tax credit that they're giving you in advance, and so The government is sending out checks for $1,200. Well, I say checks. It's really going to end up being a direct deposit for most folks. But anyway, sending out checks for $1,200 to individuals and $2,400 to married couples, and that's for individuals who make less than $75,000 a year, and for couples who have a combined income of less than $150,000 a year. Okay, and that's based on either your 2019 or 2018 return, whichever one has been filed. If you haven't filed 2019, then it's based on 2018. If you file 19, then it's based on 19.
So let me ask you about that in terms of filing the return of that return. Mm-hmm. Let's say at this point you haven't filed your 2019 tax return, but you look at what your 2018 tax return was, and say your income for a family was under $150,000. But you know that your 2019 tax return, your income would be over $150,000. Could they just choose to take advantage of the extension that everyone's got and not file that 2019 and thus get their stimulus check based on 18?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's going to be based on the most recent filing that the IRS has, when they start looking. And so, And so that is a good point. I mean, you can delay your 19 tax filing in order to get the maximum amount back. And the other side of that is if you end up making more money in 2019 and you wouldn't have qualified for the full amount, that doesn't matter. I mean, you still get it, and you're not going to have to pay it back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So is there any component beyond that $1,200 if they have dependents or anything?
Yeah. So there's also a $500 per child rebate that's available for children under 17 years old, and so it would be children 16 and under that are 16 and under.
Sure. Yeah.
And so those are the basic amounts, and those amounts are phased out as individuals get above $75,000 in income and as couples get above $150,000. And those amounts are fully phased out for an individual who made $99,000 in the year that they filed last, or for couples who made $198,000 total. So that they will not get anything.
Right. Yeah. But for the majority of the country, based on how they've made these determinations, a vast majority of the country is going to get that. So what about, say, our older population, those people that are on Social Security, maybe all they receive is Social Security. Are they, one, eligible? And then two, if they're eligible, how are they going to receive that stimulus payment?
Yeah, well, to answer your question, they are eligible, but the issue that the IRS is trying to solve, and I think they have in a pretty good way, is that if all someone has is Social Security, that's not typically taxable unless they have other income, and so they would not have filed a return, let's just say, for 18 or 19. And so the IRS has no way of knowing what their income level was for those years. So the IRS is developing what they are calling a simple form, where it just asks for very basic information: name, address, what your filing status would have been had you filed a return, your bank account information for the direct deposit of the rebate, and then what your income sources are. So if it's Social Security, you just put, Social Security is my one income source and put that amount. You're below the $75,000 or the $198,000 as a couple, and you qualify and get your rebate check.
Yeah. What does the federal government, what does U.S. Treasury predict that the total dollar value of these stimulus payments is going to be? It's got to be a huge number.
Oh, it's in the billions. I mean, the total program that this is a part of was a $2.2 trillion. That's a trillion with a T. $2.2 trillion stimulus package. And so billions of dollars has been earmarked for this particular program.
Yeah. So I when you said that trillion with a T, it made me go back to an old radio show. A guy named G. Gordon Liddy used to say that would be 2.2 thousand million.
2.2 thousand million. That is, wow. That's yeah.
Yeah.
When you say it like that, that's a lot. You can't wrap
a lot of zeros, folks.
You can't wrap your minds around that. And so of course the government's, their primary purpose is for the people to get this money and spend it, right? I mean, that's to keep the economy going. And so that's why they're throwing so much money at these programs, is because they want people out there spending money to keep the economy propped up while we're, navigating through these uncertain times.
Yeah, and you're right. The economy, we can't let it stop completely, and no one wants to do that. And so these stimulus payments are going to get out in the economy somehow. So I guess what we're saying is, we want everybody to be safe, careful, and watch your pennies, but still go out and get those essentials. If you can find that toilet paper, spend your stimulus check on it.
Yeah, that's a big if, especially where I live. I know you too, but so that's the one that's been getting all the press. But I mean, as part of this individual stimulus package, there were some other pretty interesting provisions in there. A couple have to do with mortgages, right? And so people who are facing hardship financial hardship from the COVID-19 crisis, federally backed mortgage loans, they can be extended for 60 days. In other words, no payment for 60 days.
No payment at all for 60 days.
No payment for 60 days. And that can be extended for 4 periods up to 30 days each. And so really you're looking at 6 months, basically.
6 months of potential deferment. So federally backed means it's federally backed by Sallie Mae or
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Yep.
Freddie Mac.
Those things. And most of those most mortgages are. I looked at mine the other day just to be curious, and mine is backed by the one of those things, and so so most mortgages I think are.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that's if you have that question, you just contact your mortgage provider.
Yeah, I think so. And so during that time, if you have your mortgage, basically suspended for 6 months, there's no penalties, no additional interest, so you can't be in any kind of financial, detriment by doing that. So, that's
no risk of foreclosure or any action such as that during that deferment period.
Not during that deferment period. And then they also have stipulated that the foreclosure process has to be delayed for 60 days if you were in the middle of a foreclosure process, even from March 18th, 60 days. So no financial institution, bank, mortgage company can't take any foreclosure action, within for 60 days. So a couple other things, student loans, federally backed student loans, they've suspended interest for indefinitely right now. I mean, they'll institute that again at some point, but there's no interest accruing on those. Payments on student loans that are backed by the Department of Education have been suspended through September 30th, 2020, and so you can contact your student loan provider to know if you qualify for that. There was this thing called the Real ID. I don't know if you remember the Star ID thing they've been talking about.
I've been trying to get mine for quite some time and haven't been able to get in line yet.
You were supposed to have gotten it by, I think, October 1, 2020. That's been extended a year, so you've got to 2021 to get that gold star on your license so you can still get on the plane when you're traveling again.
I want those gold stars,
I know, right? So and also food stamps. So the bill provides $450 million additional for the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which is a food stamp program. So those are just a few highlights of the individual bill. But again, the government's spending a lot of money to try to keep the economy going during these times. Yeah,
and we obviously are glad they are. In many ways, yes, we know this is in effect long term our tax dollars, but the efforts to maintain an economy while we deal with something that, probably very few of us, none of us have really dealt with something like this. And we around here at our office, we talked a little bit about that one day, and I mentioned my mother, who actually was a child of the Depression and a young and sort of middle teenager during World War II, and she told the stories about, we just made do with what we had, and and people just found a way to survive. And it's like, I keep reminding myself of that because she's experienced this. So some of our, the greatest generation that's still around here actually probably has great advice for us right now. And it's a chance to reach out to them and learn a little more and get something from it.
Yeah, that is true. And you always look for a silver lining. Look, I mean, I've seen more families walking, biking, outside. I mean, I've had more family meals with my 2 children and my wife the past 2 weeks than I've had probably in the past 2 years. I mean, and so it's those kinds of things I think are the benefits, and you hate to have to get them the way that we've gotten them, but I mean, you've got to look for the silver lining in all this. And
absolutely.
I think increased family time and just kind of refocusing on the real priorities of life are some of the things that we can focus on during this time.
So if there was anything you think about our the people we work with every day, the small businesses and organizations we serve every day, and just in general, what would you tell them? You've said some great things to me in the last couple of weeks that I've appreciated. So.
Well, I mean, what I keep telling myself, and what I tell my daughter, especially, she's all over this coronavirus thing. She's like, what's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be okay. I mean, this country is too strong. We're too resilient. We have too many smart people for this to destroy our country or our economy, period. I mean, I can't tell you when it's going to come back, but I can tell you we will be back. We're going to be okay. And we're going to come out on the other side much more strong. And I think refocused on the things that really matter.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I can honestly say for myself, my perspective on things has changed, and what I've refocused on what I appreciate more. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely, we're going to be good. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. As always, a big thanks to producer Carrie Wolf and editor Johnny Gwynn. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.